Hey, what's going on, you guys? Josh Sathiat here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining in to the Night Out podcast. You guys, as all of you know, I have been creating this podcast for about 5 seasons now, and I'm actually really grateful for the space that I've cleared out just to be able to sit down with my thoughts and discuss with you guys the things that I'm learning, the things that I'm discovering, the things that I'm relearning, the things that I'm unlearning. And for all of you out there, I really do hope that this is a piece of content that is helpful to you guys and that was able to maybe give you a little bit of a relief or help you find a different way around a situation. So today I actually want to talk about a post from Brendan Burchard. I hope I'm saying that name right. But of course, he's a well-known coach. He talks about high performance and teaches a lot. He has over 6 books out anyway. So the post that I want to talk about was a quote that he says. It says, "In the chaos and the struggle, the next step is still of our choosing. And for that, let us be thankful." I don't know if you guys really understand what that means, though. Absolutely. You're caught in the middle of a storm. You have all kinds of things that are going wrong, things that seem to, put you out of your element, make you feel like you're very, very uncomfortable. You don't like where you are. You're miserable at work or you're miserable at home or both. I've been in those situations so many times. And eventually, enough is enough. And then I have to make that next step. I have to make that next decision. Am I going to stay here or am I going to go? Am I going to let things continue as they are or am I going to make a couple of changes? Am I going to stand up for myself finally? Am I going to say, you know what? This thing that you're doing is hurting me or affecting me negatively. You have the choice to either change it or I will change it for you, which means I will remove my energy from the situation itself. So a lot of people don't seem to understand that ultimately, yeah, struggle and chaos will happen. Obviously, change is a constant, right? But what we do with the change, how we deal with it, that's in our hands. A lot of times we'll feel like, no, I'm at the mercy of my emotions. I'm at the mercy of the people around me. My parents are controlling me. My boss is controlling me. There's so many reasons for why I can't get to where I want to be. But honestly speaking, if you really were to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, this is my life, I am taking control. I do have a couple of things that I can make a decision on that would change my life for the better. And yeah, of course, immediately speaking, you'd probably have a couple of repercussions. If you have to cut some people off, yeah, they're going to be offended. If you have to say something to your boss because they're not treating you well, yeah, there may be a trip to HR involved or there may be some kind of altercation involved. But the point being that if you don't stand up and say what you need, it's going to continue. I have a favorite saying that really hurts my heart sometimes to say it out loud, but it says, what happens is what you allow. And if it's not to your standard, if it's not to your liking, if it does not serve you well, you have the right to speak up and say, hey, this is not okay. I'm not okay with this. I don't want this to continue happening. So there are two choices here. Either I change or you change. But either way, something's got to give, something's got to change. So in that specific instance, you have taken control of your life. Let me give you a couple of examples. When I was growing up, I lived with my mom. My dad was overseas. I had my 2 little brothers with me. And when my mom was out of the house, I was in charge, right? And as much as I would like to be the big sister and the friendly kind, a lot of times I was put in a situation where I had to choose to be the adult or the child. I couldn't be your chum. I couldn't be your best friend. I couldn't be, the person that lets you get away with everything all the time. There are some times where I need some semblance of order in the house. And in those instances, if I chose to stand up to my brothers and tell them, hey, this is not okay. You got to stop doing this. You got to stop picking on the other one. You got to stop, ganging up on me. I'm pretty sure my life would have been hectic forever. But at the same token, if I hadn't stood up to my brothers and stood up for myself, I think they would have understood me as the kind of character that they could walk all over forever. But now that I was able to stand up to them, they also knew that if, push come to shove and they need someone to stand up for them, I would be that person as well. So a lot of times, you taking control of your own dignity, your self-confidence, how you feel about yourself, you standing up for yourself, gives people room to see you in a different light. And also, they finally understand that you're not the kind of person to be stepped all over all the time. Yes, you're going to choose your battles. You're not going to pick a fight on every single thing. You're not going to flip out for every change that doesn't go your way, but you're definitely going to stand your ground when it comes to something important to you. Like you have a threshold, you have a limit. So it's really important, I think, for us to remember that in times of chaos and struggle, usually the next step is still in our hands. We get a chance to either go along with it, and that's us also choosing that, maybe it's not worth it to stand up to 10 people, right? Because that's too much overwhelm for us. Maybe we choose a smaller battle where we get to stand up to one person instead of 10. Maybe it's the fact that, you know what, I'm not in a position to be able to back up a stand that I take. Maybe I wait a little bit longer. Maybe I, build up some of my skill sets, or maybe I build up my confidence a little bit more before I do go ahead and say something. So, in all of those instances, we do have the choice. Do I allow this to continue happening, or do I change something so that I feel a little bit more comfortable and it's a little more manageable on a day-to-day basis? I get it. There are thousands of decisions every day. There are, what do you eat for breakfast? What time do you get out of bed? How do you get dressed? How do you plan your route to work every morning? Do you take a cab or do you take public transport? Do you allow for the timing, for public transport? How do you manage your mood when you're at work? How do you manage food when you're at work? How do you manage your colleagues? When you come back home, how do you manage the stress that you've just, let go of, or maybe you haven't let go of it yet, you're still stewing about stuff that's happened at work, and you step through that door coming back home. How do you manage all of that? All of it matters. Thousands and thousands of decisions. So when somebody comes at you while you're dealing with stuff, inside your head, how do you deal with that person? Do you give them the full brunt force of all the things you've been worrying about all day? Or do you try to manage that relationship as best you can and let them know, hey, you know what, I'm dealing with something, let me unwind first and I'll come talk to you. So it's really every single step of the way a decision we get to make for ourselves. And a lot of times we don't want to make the decision, so we allow things to happen. I've had plenty of clients that come to me and say, you know what, this is the lesser of two evils, but I don't want to cut off that bridge because what if they come back? What if this is the best that I can do at the moment, but I do still want to leave room for a second person to come through? It's not going to be that easy, because whether you make the choice today to choose one person or two, at some point life is going to force you to make one choice. It's going to force you to come full circle to, the decision that you made one time to possibly cheat on your spouse and have another person in your life, or to possibly date five people at the same time, not being committed to any one person, because at some point someone's going to want more from you. So whether you like it or not, yes, this life is yours. Yes, you have a choice to make. And every step of the way, you get the chance to decide for yourself what your life is going to look for. And maybe you don't get to change it right away overnight, right? Because all of this life is something you wanted at some point, and you've chosen to take the path that you have. And it isn't to say that you can't undo it, barring death and dismemberment, right? A lot of the things that you've decided you can undo. It's just a matter of how do you deal with the backlash? How do you deal with the temper tantrums and the attitudes that will follow? And it really is a choice. So, as difficult as it may be, as helpless as you may feel sometimes, I'm giving you that responsibility back. I'm reminding you that this life belongs to you, that these things that you've chosen to create the life that you have at the moment can be undone, can be reversed, can be changed at any point of time. It really just depends on how bad do you want it. How important is this to you? So I hope this helps us a little bit. And if you have any questions or comments, please, by all means, drop them in the comments below. But I'm going to leave you once again with this quote by Brendan Burchard. He says, in the chaos and in the struggle, the next step is still of our choosing. So be grateful, be excited, and know that this life is entirely in your hands. You get to choose. So what will you choose? All right, you guys, I'll catch you later. Bye.